Hello everyone, summer channel update. Today I decided to title this Backstage from last time. Years ago I used to make a channel update video every, I think, 100 videos, which is roughly on the same frequency. Then I stopped counting and I simply pick a day, a season, to update you about the current affairs. As always, I use this content to welcome all the new subscribers. I have here in the last 3 months over 2,000 subscribers. The channel has been gradually increasing, let's say, the views and diminishing, however, the watch length, which is not good. The income's steady, but that's none of your concern, of course. No, it's an important side of the story because, of course, like there are summer vacations, people are legitimately offline, and so it should be, right? But there's this interesting phenomenon for which I have started getting, for the first time on Schwerpunkt, some kind of regularly high level of subscription without too much external needs, right, sharing or whatever, and also an important level of constancy. Like it's a flux, it's a steady flux, and this means, of course, that we have ever more subscribers on a regular basis. The channel has been gotten to almost 21,000, as you can see. I've realized over time that naturally the more people subscribe just through the normal means, and the least they are actually aware of my previous work over the years and how things really work on the channel as well. There aren't too many rules. Like I have a civilized audience, right? You tend to be discreet and silent at most, which I appreciate. Some does comment. I realize to have this, of course, elite of regular followers that seem to follow every day. Some come or go over time. This is completely normal. But some stick around over the years as well, which is, of course, very pleasant. Some of you reach me out on Schwerpunkt, private mail, and others follow me on Twitter. We have over 200 followers there. As you understand, these are modest numbers. In the last 3 months, we got 170,000 views, right? It's not overwhelming. Overall, we have something like, I think, 1,600,000 or something. The increase in views and subscriptions tells that fundamentally there is a generalized interest in my type of content, for how it is presented, etc. The issue with the channel has always been the same. It started, it has its limits. It has its faults. I haven't ever thought of improving the format or whatever because, first of all, I don't have time. Right, I think that you have realized by now that I do this, of course, not just every day. Every once in a while I upload some older video if I'm out, and sometimes for entire weeks on vacations. I have something to leave you in case, like this new thing that I showed you, I think, just last year, that is peels of Schwerpunkt that are not shorts, right? I refuse myself to make shorts for existential reasons. You have to suffer in pain watching my content. That has to be longer than something else. No, but seriously, there is always stuff I can provide you with. And of course there is a structure behind it and some propositivity. The biggest changes behind the scenes here in the way I make videos, etc., have been substantial in the last year. This content has actually been improving over time, just for the type of choice and topic choice, let's say, better, and also the intrinsic quality. I have somewhat improved my language, which is not perfect, and as you understand here, I don't work too much to make anything perfect. But of course, like, the reasons for which I do so, aside from laziness, is that of course I take my time to explain what I'm doing. It's just how I'm habituated. I have all the possible reasons for which my entire point making a YouTube channel was to tell, like, the things that, because as you know, I told you many times, I'm actually pretty quiet, silent, almost mute person. In everyday life, I sort of unload everything vocally in these videos in the evening. And the reason being, of course, that the rest of the time is spent largely working at things that more or less have to do with at least history and warfare, but also other issues that you can see in the type of more sort of philosophical, religious content that I'm uploading. The main changes, as I was saying, pertain to the way I speeded up the video making process. Basically, for the first time, I've become so efficient and fast at preparing videos that I am something here I can see like almost 2 months in advance, which means that I have like almost 60 videos ready. And even if I stopped, in fact, preparing them for this long of a time, I could simply sit down here in the evening and recording them, which is great because I have things going on again. I like to have things under control, not to the degree of mania or paralysis if things don't go my way. I believe to be relatively efficient in as far as this elasticity is also concerned. But the most important thing is not this sum of videos that, even if they were, I don't know, beyond 10 days would be enough as a reserve. Rather, that there is a psychological comfort, of course, coming from this trivial, earthly, doomed things of life. But as a matter of fact, I have now more time to prepare the so-called specials, that is to say, emancipating myself from the so-called cycle, that is this set of, essentially content that I sort of prearrange in a broader sense that through some random cyclicity provides me with the next content, and mostly also the encyclopedical nature of Schwerpunkt's content, as far especially as medieval warfare and its surroundings is concerned, stems from. But of course, this doesn't. This is the cyclical, passive, Pelasgian, Chthonic approach to that, depending on external will, choice, or whatever. Instead, of course, there is the practical issue being that sometimes, and I see it, there are videos, we'll talk about it later, that you don't like, or at least that you selectively choose not to watch for some reason. Even if you generally appreciate them, maybe it's not that you have anything against them or the topic, but I can, of course, see patterns into that as far as the theme is concerned. Rather, again, now I have time, this reserve of time, to create what I call specials in my Schwerpunkt vocabulary, which essentially are much more specific and also spicier to some extent episodes, which I can't sort of use as some sort of jolly card when I see, for example, that, I don't know, one video didn't work particularly well or wasn't watched anyway, and I can maintain the flow stable, offering something that can show you the reliability behind what I do, right? And this really, at this point, makes me really provide, as you see, even with, again, important content that I didn't think I could do before, at least with this frequency. I wouldn't like it to actually, bring the channel astray. I already addressed this topic here and there. Basically, I noticed that you are incredibly sensitive and receptive and interested in those history of, I wouldn't say even history of religions video, because if I make a video about medieval Christianity, typically you're not going to watch it, or at least I say not watch it. Watching less means like it can. Like the range is not particularly great. The channel is also fairly small. So again, that body, that core of loyal followers makes like more or less the flow stable. But it can go as far as, I don't know, the other day I made that video on the Akbat Syrian infantry, and I can see why maybe you wouldn't, I don't know, watch it as much as, I don't know, the one on the Habsburgic monarchic role in Germany or the one on the Italian wars. But believe me, like, this content is not, it's not much not to be given for granted. I'm not threatening you or blackmailing you or whatever. But it's really part of a whole picture, right? If you're here especially for military history, for strategic culture, in education, the art of war properly, you should be aware that everything I do, like this is valid actually for any kind of content, but everything I do specifically from a military point of view, because that's what I do for a living, is all intertwined to all the rest, right? This is made abundantly clear even in particular series such as the ones about the historical, say, the regional warfare, for example, that shows you how everything is all intertwined internationally, and like, of course, you know that it's both things, right? There is a local dimension, there is an international dimension, communicating at all times. But you can properly appreciate the art of war and this sense of, you know, of warfare and its importance in the history of mankind if you don't really focus on, I can say, all the videos I make, you know, so that you can watch more. And it's not really like that, but because you see, this is not about the views. I don't care about that. What I care is about the distribution. It's totally normal, and this will be ever more evident as the channel grows, because that's typical on YouTube, that you make one video that makes so much, and another makes so few. So far, things have been relatively even, right? But what really worries me to an extent is, this is also on me. I never blame the audience for that. It's if anything, if I have to blame anyone, I do with the both of us, because that's how it works. It's a collective failure. It's not just mine or yours. It's both. But it is really a matter of topic choice. There are certain topics that do not land so successfully as the others. I'm not saying so favorably as far as they resonate with you or something. It is really, and I can't see through the reasons, and that's the thing also that worries me more, that there is a tendency towards the, it's always been like that. The early days, it was migration era content, right? So a bit like the ethno-nationalist side of the story. That's kind of all obvious also because it pertains mostly to certain specific nationalities when it comes to views and audience, and it's understandable in so many ways, but there's no doubt that it's that kind of content people still watch, like sometimes from very also rather say constant background that makes me think, like, I have, like, for example, told so much about the Middle Ages. Is it possible that of all the most advanced developed kingdoms, dominions, empires, city-states, etc., like the only videos that are watched periodically, because that's how it works on YouTube, like there's just a narrow part of your videos that are going to eventually be watched like every day, right, with a steady flow. They're always up there, and the others never show up in the analytics, say, order, hierarchy of views in real time. Is it possible that of all of that, like the dramatically, enormous political, military, social history, etc., like the attention goes to be focused only on the single most, like, sort of tribalistic, marginal, also lesser known, lesser documented, let's say, better, because it's plenty of videos on YouTube now that sort of talk about this stuff, kind of topics, there is eventually something that does not work. Admittedly, it is kind of obvious that the former are more difficult things to understand, right? They require a greater work. But you perfectly know that my channel has never been designed to entertain you. It's always been designed to be, say, whatever you want to call it, informative, educational, some sort of disclosure in nature. Giving you something that objectively I can't tell you, you don't find out there that easily, right? I studied these things for a long time, and I see that also online there is, saying YouTube, even though I don't watch the content, but I can immediately see just from the type of, say, titles, thumbnails, that the videos that are uploaded, that there are huge holes, right, in the narrative, like of the entire, say, this is if YouTube reflects to some extent, to some degree, the level of pop cultural awareness, as I define it, maybe even too often, about history, we're not really in a good place, right? I could think that actually the smarter people are out there studying books rather than watching my videos, which is totally fine, and that's how eventually the thing should sort of go like. But and so that's magically like those topics are not watched for this reason. I don't really think so, right? Considering the general sort of access to YouTube for how popular it is, and not in the sense that, I don't know, educated or smart or intelligent people don't watch it. I don't have any evidence of that, at least that I'm aware of. I think that there is rather like what I've seen also throughout my life, talking with people from so many different places, etc., realizing that their knowledge of history, sometimes of their own history, and the one of other countries or mine or whatever, is extremely low. That, you know, all the problems that I present you with on Schwerpunkt, the kind of topics, aside from my personal bias, because I'm a medievalist, because I come from a certain place, because whatever, like, my path has been, my life has been provided with something, but in general, like, I tend to provide you with, still within this biased realm, with some, you know, that, like, some pretty large sort of homogeneous, balanced coverage of the sort of most important things. Telling you the truth, I'm also not leaning as a whole towards the sort of the more exotic or sort of more original, as compared to other, say, YouTube videos, topics, or just, I don't know, what I would think for your tastes or general tastes, it would be spicier, right? There are some parts of the world, for example, that we covered that are, some are maybe even over the others more covered, right? So there may be a bias in the other sense there, but others I can see, for example, resonate more with the audience in spite of the fact that they are actually, as I was saying before, less relevant in a broader historical sense, and all point to the direction, again, that more primitive, more backwards, more underdeveloped, sort of more, I don't know, idealized, or sort of, I don't know, there are many reasons. It's not just strictly, I don't know, an ethnic or a national issue. It is really a matter of how you see history as a whole, that, yes, may reflect largely that, but that is also a problem. And that's what I'm fighting against, even though, of course, the tide is enormous. And I think my channel at this point can do even anything, like to leave a trace, a sensible trace, stemming the phenomenon. The point is, however, how much do we want to do to make this happen? All right. From one side, I would like you to be frank and honest. Like, for example, regarding the aforementioned sort of history of tradition videos, the question is, how much do you like them? Right? Do you watch them so much because of the topic in general, regardless of any other factor, or is it because I make them less frequently, and so they're sort of less redundant, and they, I don't know, they seem more captivating, and you just say, what the hell has he uploaded or something? That's very important to me. Secondly, I would like to understand, from your standpoint, what's your criterion of video choice, not the say topic choice, like say whatever I upload, like what does bring you to watch it more likely than another. That's very interesting to me because in part I already have the answers, but let's say I like to address the audience. I like, especially in this kind of videos, like this one, I mean, to bond a bit with the following. By the way, I never do it. I never announced it because I don't want to sound like a greedy son of a gun. But I want to thank all the members. Right, I started Schwerpunkt membership last winter. It's a very low one, right? I immediately tell you don't get much in exchange for that. You're just stickers and some badges with the eagle growing over the years for your fidelity, as a fidelity badge or something. I have, I think, like 13 members, and that's, I mean, thank you. That's something I always say. At some point I received even hundreds of euros of donation through the PayPal account, etc. But it's, let's say, it's not much about the humanity. It's about the fact that thinking, wait a minute, there are people that think that I should be subsidized, even symbolically. So, but still, that's the thing that strikes me for what I do here, right? Considering that I do have, like, admittedly not a particularly high revenue from the ads that you're surely bombarded by, but hey, YouTube, if I don't do it, YouTube does it. And I actually started ads, if you remember, for the longer date subscribers that, I decided to enter it, the paying thing, like, just because YouTube began to insert ads unbeknownst to me. They do it essentially when you have reached a higher traffic that they think is enough to capitalize on it, regardless of your own will. Well, it's fair. Yeah, YouTube is theirs, and I'm also terrified at the same idea that I'm in fact uploading so much. Of course, everything is saved out of here, so I always say this at every channel upload to reassure anyone that thinks that, I don't know, maybe this, of course, content is precious enough to mind to worry about this. Yes, it's all saved. I can't re-upload it, whatever it happens. Like, so it would take an enormous amount of time to an extent, but I still would have my, at least, my content always here or somewhere else for that matter. So this is important about the content because we all know that. Like, another aspect that is interconnected with it, of course, like, there have been more people talking about me outside of here. This has always happened privately, of course, but this is getting also a bit more public, especially on Reddit. That's the place where people come up always, oh, what's the best channel for, I don't know, I like medieval fantasy or the Middle Ages in general, kind of watch it. There's someone with, of course, I detest fantasy, as you know, at the most, and that's why I'm making, like, the weird voice to mock them. But the main sense, of course, of this all is that more or less, like, it already happened last year, and I even made some video responses that to some Reddit conversations were quite interesting. Like, they were nice with me. Yes, they sort of derailed eventually into some strange distrust towards me or whatever. Even though there were people who were saying, look, that, you know, there's really nothing to distrust. The content was okay. Well, still there were issues. I addressed them, but the point is that that's very positive for me, right? Actually, what I can ask you, if you like the channel and you're really interested in its growth, because that's about us, right? This is between me and you. It's really a sort of leader-follower warband dynamic. Like, we have to understand with this 20,000 fighters, where do we want to get in the first place? But there is this very positive aspect. The more my content is shared everywhere, and actually, bad news, guys, I checked the analytics, I see that nobody shares it, right? So we have great support, we have people sharing to some extent, but the level of actual sharing YouTube tells you literally everything about your content, even from what kind of device it's being watched, everywhere. It's not shared, right? So I've had, I don't know, thousands of views just because a guy shared that is a historian, has a Reddit, I don't even know how to call it, the account, whatever, Reddit page. I got thousands of views in a few hours just because this guy shared it, right? And actually I contacted him to thank him, and he told me that even though I received, I told him that had received just a few thousand views that were already like, say exceptional in a specific context compared to the regular traffic. And the guy told me that actually he knows from the Reddit analytics that his post with my link to one of my videos had received like 50,000 views, right? So this tells you, here I even have the stats on the impressions and something like that. I'm not going to check it, but it's obvious that you had this enormous power at your disposal, right? You can share the stuff far and wide to an extent that is really scary, right? And the involvement, like sharing on social networks, especially Reddit, or I don't know where other places can be, honestly, like it could be that just the only place where it can make that effect. And frankly, in fact, I don't blame you for not being there. Like I don't really use Reddit. I've never done it, even though I reached that guy just for the aforementioned issue. But consider that everything helps. Like, for example, on Twitter, every time somebody shares, retweets, I get some follower as a result, and that has a huge potential. We know it. We live in the age of the internet. We all know how it works, but just bear in mind that if you really find this content important, really, I understand even to some extent the idea of treasuring this, of saying, oh my god, this guy talks about this stuff in maybe boringly or in his own weird way, etc., but at least to a level of detail that is really significant, at least to an extent, at least the way he interprets it. I don't know how you like it specifically, but if like just 1,000th of my subscribers shared this, like only 20 people, right, shared this every day, right, a video of mine every day, this channel on the right place, this channel could rise so much so fast, right? And think just 100 or even 1 out of 10. Of course, it's completely normal for subscribers not to be active and not to watch your content. It's just more like a bookmark of some sort. But on the other hand, this is what I point out. As long as I continue this, which I'm planning to do, like on the medium term, and I would like it to intertwine, of course, at some point with the work I have directly, right? At some point you will likely learn who I am and why I do this, etc. So that also some of you will be satisfied with my sort of background or whatever that they have sort of demanded for, trust issues or whatever. This thing is destined to grow, right? Even if I die tomorrow, like this thing is continuing to grow, and there is no reason, like if that's what after all you're here for and what is going to happen anyway, to slow it down. As a matter of fact, if you want this channel to actually be bigger and to reach, like, let's say as a consequence, like certain type of thresholds that will trigger some specific, say, equally scaled sort of quality and sort of thoughtfulness and commitment, etc. Like the best thing you can do is to share like crazy, right? Do I have any specific plan? Not really. Like ideally, I've always been fascinated with analytics, even though I don't check it very much. In the sense that I've always wondered how people react to stuff that is uploaded on the internet in general. Here, I don't put my face. I haven't yet, at least. So it's normal just to receive less views. Like, the level of detachment that I maintained overall has contributed to the sort of half failure that the channel really is. The point is that this channel now has the numbers were in the range of tens of thousands to, of course, have the potential capacity, as we were saying before, to expand to a higher level. It may be from a day to another that one of the videos, I don't know, is shared somewhere, or the algorithm kicks in, or I don't know how it can work. You can contribute to that, but evidently, like, there is going to be an ever greater interconnection from different sources, from different actors, let's say, and the channel will keep rising, and therefore people will keep making, let's say, they will keep talking, and then I will get video responses, it will be attacked. This is all great. This must happen. That's the thing I'm looking forward to in general. Again, I don't wake up in the morning hoping that I got 1 million subscribers overnight. I'm not really reasoning in those terms. If anything, the same speed of growth has habituated me not to even bother myself a bit. But I truly am not even searching for that, because actually I don't know how I would handle it. I think, well, like, I'm a person who can take a lot of pressure, especially when he's doing something that has an idea of where it has to go and why, what's been about, right? I'm very sort of aware of what this enormous system of content that I upload works, and how it could, in fact, also be irrorated by views in the case of some sudden exploit of the views, etc. So that must happen. What, however, and this is why this is connected, to make the long story short, welcome to Schwerpunkt, by the way, with the topics choice, is that what I care about, of course, on the other hand, is and this is also Piu's illusion, let's say, is for the content not to be misunderstood, right? When you upload something on the internet, you know that the first thing that happens is people do not fundamentally understand your content. This is, again, on me, so this is not, generally speaking, a criticism of other people per se. But it's kind of obvious that whatever you say, it's going to be understood, like, in the diametrically opposite sense at some point by someone. You will pass for someone who has said something that it has not said. So just know that, just as a broader guide for the channel, that Schwerpunkt is it's an incredibly precise type of content making, right? There are, admittedly, over the years, not much, like, it's not much that I changed my ideas that much. It's more like the address that I give to them. Like, I'm sort of more oriented towards one, I don't know, interpretation rather than another. For the rest, I can have made mistakes. There are things that, for example, also about the same medieval history, I wouldn't address today like I would do 5 years ago. This is completely normal. People grow over time. I had a doctorate in between. As you know, actually, Schwerpunkt began with that. And I've kept working. And so the more, I remember the mistakes I do. I also say which ones I make. I correct myself sometimes within the same videos. But generally speaking, it is a very, say, precisely also designed kind of content. It's not much that the content is accurate, at least I can't. Many of you, that's the actual greater controversy. People say, but how accurate is Schwerpunkt? Like, because this is a very interesting sociological, sort of psychological phenomenon. Like, looking at mostly young people, mostly in their early 20s, coming out there on the internet and basically having no point of reference anymore. And instead of having one that they can use, at least as it was for us even just 10 years ago, to browse the internet and finding what they needed and knowing already how to evaluate it, now they need somebody telling them whether something is accurate or not. And of course, they don't have even in there, any kind of idea of what should constitute like an accurate judgment or advice or criticism, whatever. So the main problem with the topic choice is that in a way or another, this the attention for the channel will polarize, especially towards certain type of content. As I said, mostly like the mystical traditional one. This is already evident. I don't hide that I have very specific, say that I'm using it very instrumentally. It's not that I don't believe in it or I think that it's not useful or it's not good, it's not accurate. Actually, I put a lot of care in it because I know how controversial it can be, and I also got acquainted with such theories over time in a very precious way, and I sometimes talked about how it happened so that you can't, that I'm very transparent about this, like the sense of how I see things and why. Like, I don't present you with some raw information and just deal with it, right? My point here, as I said since the beginning, was to explain it to people. Again, it may have not succeeded overall. There may be still this, in terms of the spread of it, the success in the entire enterprise, there can be these misunderstandings. But one thing you can be sure of is that I'm sitting here explaining the damn thing to you. That's also why you see how I'm organizing, for example, this very video. Like, it's not that I'm telling you, look, oh guys, this is the channel, this is what will happen. No, right? That's fakingly acting, sort of disgusting behavior that I'm completely allergic of, and I could never behave like that. Like, my hormones tell me that I'm not calibrated to behave like that. And this is incredibly important because, after all, I wouldn't see how funny that would be. This also proves you how sort of uninterested of the income I am when doing this. Not just because objectively I don't rely on YouTube, of course, for my primary source of income that I don't really have to worry about in general at any point in my life, also prospectively. But in let's say in the actual deal, right? I'm doing this because I like evidently explaining stuff, and through my best insight, there are mistakes that I can do. I don't know what. Let's make an example. The other day I made that video about the Gracchi, and I said I pronounced Caius Gracchus as opposed to Gaius Gracchus because we have we don't really know actually how the Romans spoke at the time. Like, it's all a big theory, and we don't have a recording. But somebody found a gamma from a Greek source referring to, in fact, Gaius Marius. And so people say, no, that's not how it's said. You see, that this is, for example, it's not even a minor historical inconvenience because I care about giving sort of this correct pronunciation. But you see, here I slipped. It be nobody will ever truly know how they really spoke it, but yes, it's more likely that it was like this. It was this distinction, differentiation. There is also sort of ambiguity because the Romans actually wrote in public on public monuments C because it was easier than the G, right? So, for example, in Italian, the name Gaius is actually Caius, right? With C, because over time people sort of absorbed, interiorized the C rather than the G sound, right? And you see, this is the kind of, excuse me, drink a little. The kind of mistakes I can do. I can also explain you further, etc. But I'd say it seems to me, going back to the point, that the majority of people seem to be interested in some sort of ideological. I don't use the term ideology in a negative sense because if you look at the etymology of it, it's completely neutral. Everybody uses an ideology, right? You're not a human being if you don't use an ideology. Your brain is evolutionarily set on that, right? There's no other way you can formulate any kind of thought whatsoever. It's not a matter of personal opinion or how you feel about it. If you think, it's because you have an ideology going on. the point is how they mean it, because instead the term is, as many other beautiful neutral terms in our classical vocabulary, it is being loaded by weak people with terrible semantics and extremely negative connotations. Like, the idea is that having an ideology, of course, thank God, like, having, decades of studying on my back, I can, of course, have an ideology, because there is a lot of stuff to put together, and if you don't have that, you can't work with it in the first place. It's for them instead apparently a problem of some sort, and they live, in fact, in such unreliable environment that for them, this is how you recognize a paranoid person: distrust by default, right? And paranoia is a symptom of weakness, of lack of defense, of awareness of incapacity, lack of independence, and more. And so they presume that any person who has strong opinions and goes out there with a well thought idea or articulated one that people deem to be, say, functional, positive, to explain complex ideas, is some sort of, again, thing to blame or to pretend to be inaccurate or whatever, right? The idea is that this has been developed, especially in, say, in the last generations, that there is a fixed spectrum of political parameters based essentially on, again, the last decades of, I don't know, the very specific countries, whatever, and the entire knowledge that, of course, they totally ignore as a whole must be fit forcefully in any of these narrow confines, so that others can lecture others to say who this person actually is. We see this all the time. Of course, I'm not anywhere near anything like a say, famous thinker or whatever, but look, in fact, at the guys we have, I don't know, millions of subscribers on YouTube. There is a systematic lying and falsification of any idea, right? And at the same time, of course, it is true that there are some severe flaws also in conservative thinking that unfortunately undermine what would otherwise be like a quite promising, like sometimes even bright minds. And it happens, like, to be wrong. It happens to be, let's say, inadequate to some extent. But the important is also how flexible you are and how much you grow and how much you're able to overcome this. And I don't think that my channel has ever given, say, proof of being particularly crystal stubborn or, let's say, dull and limited one. I think I give abundant proof of this, even with, again, the very controversial topics for which people sometimes think, what the hell is he saying? What is this? I don't know. I can't place it on my sort of political or ideological, in fact, moral compass, because I've never heard of that yet. Well, this is excellent, because this is exactly what I'm seeking to do practically. And at the same time, say in last years when I made this channel updates, I tended to frame my channel mostly through, look, that I'm doing so much stuff, and of course this is true, as I said before, every single content is intertwined with another. Needless to say, I'm not even to address people who come here, don't know anything about my work, watch one video, listen 5 seconds of it, understand the opposite of what I'm saying, and come up with strange explanations, mostly rush. The other thing that always surprised me is that I've never received criticism in the form of, you say this, here's the evidence of the contrary, this is wrong, whatever. Zero, right? If you ever find any criticism, it's people that feel apparently threatened by the fact that I have standards or whatever, and they leave insults because they don't explain really what's wrong, right? Or saying this is false, and they don't even explain why that would be with any trace of it, even ever. Like, I got millions of views, and there's never even been once a person who came here of those who say what you're saying is wrong, that actually said anything like, this is why, right? Admittedly, there are so many other sort of disturbed delusions, views, you can immediately understand how people think and where they come from intellectually as soon as they say, I don't know, just 5 words about history whatsoever. Right? That's the easiest thing ever to understand what a person believes in general, just expressing an opinion on history. And this has been a great exercise, like was one I had with students, etc. is really the same. But aside from this, of course, today I sort of have a much clearer direction and confidence in what I'm doing, for which I'm even past the thing of be aware of what I'm saying because there is some hidden meaning in this. At this point, it's the meaning, the hidden meaning itself, revealing or not revealing depending on who you are, that is pulling the card here, that has the numbers to break free. And again, it's difficult to handle. Like, you have to see that I'm building up muscles for handling it, right? It's not like, again, I'm coming up with it by myself. This is the most important thing I've always said, that any kind of thing I say in here, any kind of information, any point I'm making is historically based, right? As I said before, you can't hide to be biased as long as what you say is actually accurate, right? There is a degree, I'm not going to digress on the thing of what's the difference between fact and opinion. People literally believe that there are sort of facts, right? And those who deny that, generally speaking, are just some sort of leftist relativists that say, no, there aren't, or there aren't fixed notions to learn from that. No, there aren't facts, because our entire point is continuous research, right? My point here is that, like, there's a type of person who says, things are like this because I want them to be like that. And then there are people who tell them, but it's not really like that because everything sort of changes. What I'm here for is actually look that there is so much more than you can even dare to imagine, and let's find this out together, right? That's the kind of the channel of Schwerpunkt's spirit, and it is really true, because my constant feeling also with my work, my life, etc., is that there's so much to learn that, of course, it's impossible, like, even to think to cover it to a minimal extent in a lifetime. And even when it gets to history, of course, you see, you cannot afford but to be biased, exactly because in all of this infinity, you must always make a choice. You cannot remain neutral. You cannot remain purely, like, balanced in this, because for everything you say, there's something else that sort of deserves to be said, and that you have always to be searched to fix. And that's how you grow at the same time for saying the better thing that sort of can be more effective and more useful for whoever is listening. In spite of this, everything I do here primarily is history. If you look at my content, basically, like, there are people who clothe their channel with history to make, like, very cheap points, right? Ultimately for the sake of getting money, right? Look at this channel, for example, like the kind of mystical traditionalism and history of religion that you come to appreciate so much. As I said before, yes, I do it instrumentally, also for the channel growing. But it's something that, first of all, I'm very interested in. I think it's useful. You can learn so much from it, and it's part of the broader things that we're historically watching. I'm not making the channel about it in the sense of, now this is my identity, and let's all be alike with this kind of fashion, just in what most people will anyway receive in a sort of aestheticistic, idealistic way that doesn't even, in fact, have to do with self-actualization, which the entire traditional deal is about. So I'm extremely critical of, like, as you know, I don't have a very high opinion of YouTube history content in general. Some channels do good stuff, like, there's no doubt. Also, like, let's leave aside the entertainment part. Of course, they're much better than me at that. But yes, there is some sort of reliable information. But as I always say, like when you want to have like just 15 minutes of video explaining like a much bigger deal and not coming much back on the topic and sort of just pinpointing like the flashy action or even just battle campaign and basically leaving, like, first of all, in 15 minutes, like the average person is not really going to understand not much what happened, which presumably they already knew, or at least if they didn't, it's because it's a kind of topic that probably they're going to forget about in a few time. But secondly, you're not giving them, you're not making them grow, right? You're not teaching them to sit there, to listen, to make their brain work, and to make the effort themselves to get to that point. And at that point, only saying, this is the actual issue. I understand now why this is important. It's not just about the action. It's not just about, I don't know, the pictures. Believe it or not, people are very much into that, often more than the actual content. You're not actually providing them with a historical culture and education. You know that this channel is very almost partially sort of elitistic to an extent, because I sound haughty and arrogant and whatever. But the point there is that if you don't set standards, what the hell are you doing this even for, right? And it's not even like I'm covering history of this. Again, on YouTube, there is so much that you can do, right? My content may seem, I don't know, higher in quality than in relation to what you see on YouTube. And it's extremely easy to surpass that. But it's not like I would make a university class like saying this. At large, I actually kind of do. Like, it depends at least on the basic classes for the beginners. That's how you want to sort of fascinate them. But of course, if I have to say better, like, I don't know, present an article at a conference, that's another thing. And of course, it's something that I simply cannot do for very specific material instruments. It's not even about time. It's really like the way I write an article is not what I can simply present on the channel. I could read you some of my articles, but they take months to be written. And of course, I can't do the same thing in that way like I do in here. And I think that, again, covering as much as possible at this level of historical qualitative information, I think is fairly useful. We come, by the way, to cover some topics that I don't see other channels covering, because they are actually the sort of the ones that, as we were saying before, are less, sort of people would watch less per se, but they also make, paradoxically sometimes, some view exactly because nobody else would actually talk about them. And so you're the only one that's pursuing, I remember since childhood, this sort of encyclopedical purpose in a way or another. I'm that, again, as I always say, when I'm put on a track, I know what to do, I just go on. And it's almost an enormous waste of energy sometimes. But I believe that there is some quality in this too. Also because, again, the videos are qualitative. At least the information that they pass you is sort of, first of all, it's very critically elaborated. Like, it's never, that's why I'm very contrary to that idea of the sources of whatever. Aside from the fact that I should make entire videos on sources and how to use them. Because when your habitual article, when you're hoping to write a book at some point, is containing thousands of citations for like a 20 pages script, the question is, who are you even kidding to give sources on a YouTube video? I mean, aside from the fact that if we talk about specific information, of course I give you the sources, and I'm very much an ad fontes guy, right? You know, I despise scholarship heavily, but again, this content is not made for you to feel emotionally reassured by someone that you don't even know telling you historical things that you can just deterministically and passively ultimately as mechanically check on a book that you will never read from other sources that you will never even care to look at, right? I'm here to challenge you. I'm here to be that thorn in the side, for not saying worse, that is pushing you to recognize your limits for the sole purpose of surpassing them. And I have this is also a very simple way of putting it, but you understand from the kind of content I make what I truly, also what my general point is, right? And it does substantiate into some specific ideas that, however, must be developed historically, first and foremost. They do not come by themselves. I'm not making them up. I'm providing you with the actual historical primary source that says things. As far as those citations are concerned, I'm telling you, look, that's the kind of reference, that's the work, that's the figure, and it's all very critically dealt with. For which I'm never taking this passively myself and saying, okay, whatever I read or I studied or anything, like, it's simply, how this person presents it to you. It's never like that. Like, history is about the critical reading of sources, right? There are people who stop to literally, like, what sources say it's history. We live in a world in which the prevalent level of mental development really gets down to that. And it's not really, it's a joke, right? So if you think about how the world works, really, it is that crazy. Except, of course, there is also the hard stock that makes the world really work, and most people just follow the trail, and that also is, I think, and of course, what history is really about. It is, of course, about discipline, it's about authority, it's about order, it's about action, it's about will to power, it is about moral forces, but also reason and science, and about using your best to achieve your most. I don't know why I digressed to this point, but yes, because of the topics, right, the video topics. So there is obviously a creeping feeling that my channel, because I saw it also outside of YouTube, is leaning to, and I never made a mystery of this. This is obviously at least a conservative channel. Probably it's a traditional channel to some extent. I often don't use this term, if not to define particular type of content, because I think that the mean itself, like YouTube, cannot say it sort of denaturate really tradition, like as a mean in the first place. Tradition is acted out in other words. This is a way of acting too, but as you understand, it's very difficult to oppose yourself to the main worldly trend. So I don't pretend also this to achieve success without having tried that much and really having believed in something that seems sort of almost hopeless, right? Impossible to achieve. This is another issue. You get it better from the rest of my content. The point I wanted to make really is, instead, again, always to you, like, I can't say I read in your minds, because you're too many now for me to understand even who you are individually. Not that I ever did or thought to, but we can all relate to the fact that there is this tension, as always, from the sort of the plain, rational, sort of cold, contemplative, reflective sort of approach to history. Okay, let's see if this is something reliable. Again, the same I was saying before. And then when you sort of get it, you get what the content is of what I do and what this is all about. There is a sort of hubris that tangentially starts perturbing the system. It is important to have that. That's the way of the left hand. Because without that Dionysian bloodshed, you cannot really act out. You would simply sclerotize into essentially saying ever sort of plain, neutral, completely just, and not even necessarily at all, and falsely actually inaccurate thing at some point, or at least things that wouldn't reach the level of historical depth that the sort of more mystical and crazed experience can provide. And we all know that we are right-wingers, and the reason why we are here largely it is. And the reason is also, like, as I often say, I'm much beyond right-wing itself. I don't really identify with right-wingers because I don't identify with people in general. It's not about the side. The other side, to me, of course, does not exist at all. The point being, rather that, and I'm not scared of that. I think that the main reason why conservatives lose is that they fear that there is a threat from the other side, right? They are the ones building it, right? If you don't believe in it, it melts away. It's just the monsters in your head, the ones that prevent you to self-actualize and to take the reins of the world without even minding about the consequence, because you already know them in advance. But there is a sense, exactly for what I just said, that the common idea of say, the common reception, understanding, and perception of my conservatism through your own, by you, may be flawed, right? I'm not really the kind of guy that can be easily framed, even through the content that he provides. You know how sort of, I say nuanced, not because it's all intellectually developed, or that's not. That's also what I never wanted to be thought of as an intellectual. I'm primarily a person of actions, right? But how nuanced my videos are, like how necessarily, like hours at a time, you must address one specific topic in order to sort of picture, in the way I said before, making people fully understanding deal of it, not just a simple notion of it or the fact that it existed. It takes. There is a great malaise in the world. This is not that we live in such an enormously terrible world, in spite of all the enormously terrible things that do happen in it. We should recover that confidence in order to understand fully what I'm doing here. Right, so I don't want to be the channel of those who have lost hope or are desperate or are whining or complaining about how the old values are lost, because old values can never be lost. Right, people can be lost. Values are forever, and they are way more important than people. And when you understand this, it sort of hits you to the point that you know that you have only one way, right? That it's until the end and beyond. And we will, of course, be exploring this concept as well. If you're not really picking this, if you're up for yourself, if you're not willing to embrace that, which also entails an enormous deal of suffering, an enormous deal of self-sacrifice, you can't really go anywhere. And life is not funny, and it doesn't make any sense. Right? So for everything you do, the most important thing is to be true. And there are many more important things than whatever I do here, we do here. But this is exactly why we can use this as an instrument. Schwerpunkt can also get edgier, can get more, controversial or bold, right? But it's a tool that you have to use for you, not because it's something that is out there just to be observed as some sort of entertainment, right? And believe me, I never say you try your best, because we all know that we don't. We are fallen kind. But believe me, I am trying to do things well. I'm trying to do them well with, again, the sort of format that I've given to the whole thing, which may not make it well, in fact, on the same basis with others, but let's say I'm trying to make it as well as I can for those who still believe. I haven't made it a mystery for anyone in prior videos say really that the ultimate point is to conquer the world. Of course, like what do you live for if not for that? Like conquering the world passes through quite an intense moral path, through things that happen in your life, through people that you love, through what you can really do for them, right? And this is the point of it all, right? We're not monads separated from reality. We're not just sitting here in front of a screen listening to Schwerpunkt that is, being lost to the dark side irremediably. It's the sense of truth that is as simple as it can be. It's all about making it the simplest way, because any other failure is just a product of our mental shortcoming that is willingly coming from our lack of will and belief and faith in ourselves, right? And as much as in the truth. So beware of this content. This will get tougher, I can tell. It's going to, I have, again, a bunch of ideas, and I will try to be also a bit more, controversial without getting banned from YouTube. And I'm not talking about sort of banal controversy. I'm talking about pretty heavy stuff. So just buckle your belt, because probably, I don't know, I have some things going on. But I scheduled, at least, you never say, you can't really fully predict the future, unfortunately, but I think in the next couple of months we will see pretty interesting things going on, and possibly many of you will be watching this very video later without even knowing that I exist in the moment in which I'm recording it now, as a consequence of that, which makes you understand my embarrassment in trying to just make a simply linear thought. Let's say this channel is about this and that. No, this is never going to be the channel in which you're going to be to see that, right? An artificial intelligence can do that. This is a very different run channel, and I don't know. I think that we'll be at least having fun, or at least if that's the only kind of entertainment that I can promise you from this. I could look at other, say, things like stats or whatever, but it's a bit of a waste of time, actually. I don't see the point. It's all about you, right? This channel works because we work together. That's it, right? It's not really going in any other direction. I don't want to finish it here, though. What else can I say? Let's look at some, because the thing excuse me, I drink a little once again. After COVID, I have this sort of cough, doesn't go away. It's pretty annoying. Usually I get it in winter when I make too long videos, and with the radiators, I don't know, for some reason my throat gets dry and start coughing, but I was just like the one who would get COVID in July. Let's look at traffic. Okay, it's not much of a... Alright, the usual... Here stats are not bewilderingly relevant. We can look at different aspects of the same views, watch length. You see what YouTube is so... Too few advice videos. That's the thing that always happens. Like, I actually have a higher rate of engagement. Granted, because also my videos are much longer than the average, so people tend to watch them longer. But the advice videos are sort of claiming too few. Well, we are around 100 actually, which ain't bad. Actually, even over that, so it's not much the issue. YouTube search. Let's see this in some 90 days perspective. More or less, things haven't really changed in this. Watch length maybe is gone slightly. Well, people are watching playlists more. No, nothing. There's been much of a change. Let's look at the nationalities. It's always the same, predictably. And based on watch length, United States, United Kingdom, Canada, Germany. This is the pole position. Then we have Romania, Poland, Australia, Italy, Brazil, Chile, the Netherlands, Finland, Sweden, Spain, Portugal, France, Serbia, Greece, Norway, Belgium, Bulgaria, Russia, India, Czech Republic, Croatia, Hungary, Ireland, Denmark, Ukraine, Argentina, Slovakia, Austria, Turkey, Switzerland, Slovenia, South Africa, Kenya. Never seen Kenya before. Philippines, New Zealand, Israel, Paraguay, Latvia. Let's not go here getting very low. But the winner in terms of higher watch length for naturally fewer videos is the aforementioned Latvia, with an astonishing 30 minutes for 13 views. It's not that high, but it's normal. Of course, then we have, however, this is really interesting because it's a lot of views, almost 1,500. Finland, that maintains an astonishing average of 18 minutes. I think Finland had, we talked about it last time because this is astonishing. Kenya, this is also interesting, 36, this is the third, right, with an average of 17 minutes, right? Argentina as well, Paraguay, the bigger ones, so the bigger groups, like we have, let's go in order at this point, decreasing: Norway, Serbia, Denmark, Canada, Ukraine, United States, right, this is the first big one, Poland, Croatia, Switzerland. Yeah, this is pretty interesting. Of course, they tell you even some cities that you can look at, but this is not such an issue. Let's look at the demographics. So in terms of what is this? Views. Bare view. Okay, let's watch. Make watch length. Okay, we have at this point in the last. This is the last 90 days, right? So it's not going to be the average. We have a very interesting stats here. We have. I didn't know that YouTube had minors counting here in the. We have. From 13 to 17 years old, we have just a here we don't have the entire percentage of actually like the watch length. It doesn't give you actually, no, this is the average watch length. It doesn't give you the total. This is sort of weird. Doesn't appear in the analytics, but whatever. By far the highest average, let's stick to this, watch length is from the band 35 to 44 years old. Before it was higher. It was most people in my age group from 25 to 34 who watch. In fact, these are second. We have an astonishing close third and fourth in the 55 to 64 and 45 to 54 years old. This is amazing. they surpass even the age 18 to 24. This is really beautiful. I unfortunately don't have again the total. I have the number of views, but in this sense it's better to watch the average watch length. I don't have the total views. Of course, I think that this age group actually, or the one from 25 to 34, is the dominant one. And then we have also, like the other high watch length of 7 minutes 51 from the elderly, and again 5 minutes from 13 to 17 years old. Let's pass to the sex of the followers, and we have, okay, so the average watch is actually quite interesting. Men 11 minutes 13, women 9 minutes and 8 seconds. We have the actual watch. Like, wait, I found that also for the age. Okay, so we have an overwhelmingly male audience. We knew that. Actually, female views have gone slightly down. They were around 10%. Now they're 8.2. Going back briefly on the actual watch length, yes, we have by far 38% of 25 to 34. Yeah, years old. But the actual, like, considering YouTube demographics in general, it's really striking. We have definitely more elderly people, and that's fine. I don't see here any other particular really interesting stats. The playlists. People watch playlists. Let's look at the overall watch length. What is the most watched playlist of all? Karl von Clausewitz, the Phone Krieger. Well, this sort of makes sense because it's really like a true series of 200 and more videos. We have to complete that, by the way. Then we have Christian history with a very high level of also visualizations as far as I'm concerned. Then Byzantine history, then medieval Romania, then late medieval warfare, interestingly enough, then medieval Germany, medieval France, medieval Europe, Carolingian Europe, Indo-European history, medieval Italy, medieval Bohemia, Gaius Julius Caesar. I had even forgotten to have that. Let's watch at the actual views of the playlist. First of all, medieval France. Interestingly enough. Karl von Clausewitz, medieval Germany, medieval Bohemia, Byzantine history, Christian history, late Roman army, Roman history, medieval Italy, historian, questions and answers, so interesting, late medieval warfare, etc. I haven't made many questions and answer videos, I think, in the last 3 months, maybe one, I remember. These are bits of the stats, nothing glamorous. I mean, everything remained pretty much the same. And I believe with the colder season, more people will be home watching, and then the watch length will increase once again. Well, what can I say? This is more or less how I lead my updates. Then feel free to pose any question. Just be, we are very open on Schwerpunkt. Like there is something you want to know, anything that sparks your curiosity, whatever. I can make a video just out of that. Just tell me, of course, what is that you like the most. Say, I of course encourage you to ask like, can you make a video about this? Yes, but bear in mind that I'm hardly going to do that, right? This is not to say much of this is not due to the fact that I don't want to make videos on commission, let's say, because also I don't get too much from it. But I've never really done them in that sense, like we're talking about payment. No, the reason it doesn't work like this on here is just that most of the times I've been asked about something was something extremely sort of, let's say, it's not even precise, or something difficult to answer or to find, even in the lack of temporary, say, lack of knowledge, that it's rather something so specific that the question is, why would I talk about that? Like, or why would I be the one preferentially? Like, especially considering all what I discussed. Like, what I'm struck by, again, is that I uploaded this enormity of videos, and many people don't even go watching it, right? That there are, again, very few views in general. This is normal on YouTube, sadly, for anyone. Like, again, very few videos are watched because they are shown to you by YouTube, but the rest, there is all an iceberg beneath the waves that you probably are missing. There are lots of things that probably are going to be interesting for you. If you search for them, the best tool there is playlists. And at that point, considering what I made, like, I would like those videos to actually make people wonder, right? Not just being Schwerpunkt being sort of the answering machine or anything. You know, it's never been like that. I don't give much satisfaction to anyone in that sense. But and even less like seeking for my attention whatsoever. That's the thing that I detest more than else. I mean, yes, if there is again a positive, and yes, I also made an interview here and there, like, but that's one thing. The other is just, let's bond with Schwerpunkt because he's the guy who makes the video. But I'm not here for this. Like, I have other things to do. So, yeah. What else? Yeah, in general, grow acquainted with my work before interacting with me, or even just listening to anything of what I've done, right? Just dive into it, because you're going to find lots of stuff that probably you weren't even aware of historically, given at least the average of course audience. Like, it's completely normal, especially among, as we've seen, like in the demographics there, young people. That's all I can say. Then at some point I exhaust my set of thoughts to make the video longer, and I get bored. Right now, this type of video. Of course, I'm joking. I would continue, but I can't think of a specific. I made my tirade already, so that the clue of the video has passed, as you understand from it though. We'll have, again, lots of things going on. However, for today, I stop it here. Just hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please share it. Otherwise, leave a like or subscribe to my channel if you're interested in my upcoming content. As always, I thank you heartily for listening to me. I wish you a nice time, and see you next time. Bye.